one man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time.
We do know that you will always get paid in HEX on a daily basis. And that is truly the miracle that we call HEX, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield. Nothing will stop that contract from running.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Creed of Crypto podcast. How you doing? I am Broke Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok. And we were already talking in the green room off the air that this kind of feels like a 2022 stream tonight. We've got the SEC kind of doing the whole Oprah. You get sued, and you get sued, and you get sued. So we'll talk about that. And a lot more here tonight. We've got some FUD coming to the, what else is new? There's always FUD. We've got PulseChain FUD. We've got HEX FUD. We've got people scared in the crypto space, which we're going to get to. But if you are joining us right now, right off the bat, hit the like, subscribe to the Creative Crypto YouTube channel. We very much appreciate it. We do this every single Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we got a hell of a show lined up here for you tonight. As you can see on the thumbnail, if you were listening to this later, on the podcast version, we've got Clown Gensler, Gary Gensler, and Operation Choke Point 2.0, obviously suing Binance, followed by Coinbase in 2 consecutive days to start off this week. Not something that we necessarily saw coming to start this week, but here it is. And yeah, we've got some fear in this market, although you wouldn't necessarily know it by the BTC price. So, Ewok, how are you feeling this evening? Are you excited that we have Mr. Gensler's face back on the thumbnail?
Oh, what a clown. What a clown. Yeah, I'm excited to see that image of him. I think it's kind of hilarious how many memes there are of the Joker himself and what this space has become, only because of the SEC FUD and all the unnecessary drama. Pretty crazy. But otherwise, I'm doing well, trying to breathe with all this Canadian smoke festering down our way. It's
it's covering a large portion actually of the East Coast. It looks like by
I've heard the whole way down to Georgia. They're able to spot it. So
pretty
weird crazy
stuff. But so it's a weird week. We got a lot of weird things going on here. We are 1 week into June, and we've said this has been kind of the rallying cry of all of our shows here for 2023, that we're primarily looking at this year as an accumulation year, and you're going to have 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, however you want to look at it, but some stagnation. But either way, even with all this stuff happening this week, which we're going to get in the weeds of, it still is better than 2022. I mean, like we've had, if you zoom out a little bit, and I know that's a cliche, when in doubt, zoom out. But I mean, like PulseChain is live. We've had, we're not involved in Pepe, but we had some weird meme coin do a 350,000x. I mean, like these were not the stories we were talking about in 2022.
Right. It was all doom and gloom. Now we've at least got positive things to look forward to. Lots of stuff being built, man. Every day I turn around, I'm seeing on-ramps and just different tools and price pages, things like that, that's being built. It's really exciting to see that, even though, we're not having a lot of price action right now. So, all that stuff kind of makes up for it, but it's just preparation. It's right now is when people are preparing to be ready for the bull run and load their bags and build, and those are the things that need to happen. So pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it definitely is. And we'll get to some of what those things are that are being built as well. But yeah, so getting into it, I mean, first we were going to start off with just kind of looking at the BTC and ETH and, the entirety of crypto price action, because it did start this week dipping. I mean, like we were basically down at about that very key number that you and I were talking about even back in January of 25.5K. Except at that point, we were hoping to get up to there, and saying that a lot of, bearish people that think we're still going to see new lows in this past bear market, that would have basically put them to bed. Now we're at the point where that's our, bottom, for lack of a better term, that everybody's looking at. And I tell you what, I mean, it kind of bounced off that with, proficiency. I mean, it perfectly bounced right off that area. And that seemed like the key level to defend. Now we bounced up off there. Now we're almost getting back to it again with BTC at the moment at 26.3K, ETH at 1830. But yeah, some interesting price action down. I mean, and we've been up towards that 27, 28 range. It went up. I mean, we actually cracked 30K, I believe, for a very short period of time, way back a few weeks ago. So it's really the most bearish action we've seen in months.
Yeah, several weeks. But something else that also happened too is we bounced off of this, the 50-week moving average here. And, in order to get above it, obviously, you've got to clear through it and use it as support rather than resistance. So, we'll see how that plays out. We're still above the 200-week or 200-day moving average, I should say.
Yeah.
This is the 50-day. So, it did pretty much hit that and bounce right off of it. Now, we haven't gotten to back yet. So, see what happens. But like I said, these next couple weeks, several months are probably going to be choppy like this. It's something that you kind of prepare for and get used to in these they lull you to sleep. And then the next thing you know, it's how did that happen kind of thing. That's
right.
Of where did that run come from? And it just kind of takes off and you're usually not ready for it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's where we've been. I mean, like, we've talked before about the idea of, there's price capitulation, where you think of November 2022 and FTX and all that stuff going down, where people are just like, yeah, crypto's dead. I mean, like, this is the end. And now, there's that idea of time capitulation, where as good as this year has been, we know, when you zoom out, I mean, like, people are going to get bored at these prices, even though we've been almost 2x off of the bear market lows at one point. So,
right.
Yeah, it's rough. It's going to be, we've compared this year to 2019 a lot. Like, it's just a year of that stagnation. Prices pretty much looking the same. But that's why, as we're going to talk about tonight, you really want to be paying attention to what is it that's being built? What are the things you can see on the horizon still, and obviously, we think PulseChain is a big catalyst for that. Before we do tackle these lawsuits, we do have, I will just say this in relation to the BTC price. We have that FOMC meeting next week. That's 1 week from today, June the 14th. I know we talked about this last week. My stance on it really hasn't changed. I think we'll probably get that final, likely 25-point rate hike, and then some mixed verbiage from Powell before they probably just pack it in on the next meeting and, cease with the rate hikes. But what are you thinking, Ewok?
Yeah, I think so too, only because, I do believe the unemployment numbers have gone up. So that is one of the metrics that they do use to measure what they're doing. And so, we know that went up. I don't know a percentage point of how many it went up by or anything like that, but we do know again that is one of the things that they try to achieve and balance out is the unemployment rates as well as the interest rate. As one goes up, the other one kind of comes down a little bit. So we'll see what they do to kind of offset it, or if they're looking for higher numbers, then but I still think we'll get that 25-point increase as well. Hopefully it's the last one.
I'm pretty much with you. And then I think we'll get, sometimes it's not even just the rate hike, because again, that's usually already priced into the market. It's more so, what does Powell sound like afterwards in his speech? What else is in the, longer term report? But yeah, I'm with you. I think that they're beginning to let the reins off. We saw at the beginning of the year, I believe that was, I don't even remember now, it all runs together, but like there's bank failures and things like that. And, choke point with the crypto banks and everything. So, yeah, we're going to see issues with banks. So they definitely need to stop with the rate hikes. And I think we're going to see that by the time we get to that. I think it's July 31st meeting that the Fed's having. So on to the main thing here. All right. So everybody's familiar with Gary Gensler. If you're somehow not, he is the current head of the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. And remember that this is a non-elected group of people. These are appointed, assigned people, not unlike the Fed, that are carrying out the wishes of the government. So do keep that in mind. This isn't, because it is, not to get off on this tangent, but like we see, we've talked about Warren Davidson, the representative from Ohio, who's trying to put together like a coalition to remove Gary Gensler and redo how the SEC does things. And I believe his intentions are probably good, Warren Davidson. But, sometimes it's also like, is any of this like just political posturing, even from the right wing side of things, or the people that are saying that they want Gensler out of there? Because we do, I'm not going to use the C word, and I mean conspiracy here, although I just said it. But because I do hate that, that's just a way to discredit people. But I mean, for real, it would make sense that some of the people in the more powerful positions that are more of the elites, regardless of what side of the aisle they are on, want a mouthpiece like him in place to keep any kind of transition of wealth under their thumbs, you know? So, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I agree. I mean, it's funny when you look at, I saw something earlier today about the wealth that some of these politicians have and the salary that they make. It's incredible. This disparity between the two. You have somebody making $300,000 or whatever, maybe, and their worth is like, I don't know, $78 million. So there's so much insider backroom stuff going on between all these politicians. And anymore, half of them don't even need lobbyists because they have so much money themselves that if they really want something done and pushed through, they take care of it.
Yeah.
It's funny. So yeah, you do have to be careful of some of these people who are speaking as a pro crypto person, but what are they really doing behind the scenes? It is worrisome. We do know that the whole Operation Choke Point is a real thing. They want to discourage the public from crypto. They want to make it so that it seems like it's just a bad thing, a terrible investment, because they're trying to push through the CBDCs. That makes it easier on that, at least. And the Lord forbid we get some normal people that have a little bit of wealth. They don't like that. So yeah, it's just a weird, messed up situation that we got to get a lot of these people just out of office. We really have to just clean house. And it's so hard to do because now we don't even trust our voting system. So where do you start?
Yeah, these are all problems we're not going to fix today. It's kind of that whole thing where if you think too much into these things, you're just going to have a real shitty time of it. But it's kind of that whole control your own 5-foot world as best you can. But I know where you're coming from, and it's a big deal. And the best we can do is fight for what we believe in, and double down. I think at all costs. But
and stay local. I mean, the people say stay local. Local stuff really,
true.
Can matter. You get into some of these upper echelon levels of rulemaking and decision making by some of these people. Yeah, your local stuff isn't really going to matter a whole lot, but you got to start somewhere.
Amen. Yeah, it's more what's going to impact you, on the day to day. But in terms of what Gensler and the SEC have done, so first off, Binance is sued by the SEC for commingling funds. We had a pretty big market dump off that news. I actually in my notes wrote huge. It really wasn't huge for the kind of things we're familiar with in crypto. But dumped from probably around 27, 28 down to that 25.5 level of support for BTC. And really it's, this is the first big thing that has happened since those events of November of last year that seemed like a return to like bear market sentiment.
Right.
And, and I think you probably do the same, Ewok. I think it's a very valuable thing to do. But that day, and again, yesterday, I made it a point, and I'm not on Twitter all day, so I try to do this when this happens, but I wanted to get a feel of everything. Like what was the sentiment like? What are people acting like? And it was kind of a lot of that, hair on fire type sentiment, and the world is ending and all this stuff. But we weren't really seeing it in the price. And, I think like the price is obviously it's a lagging metric, but the thing with back in November and FTX and everything, you would see that sentiment and the price was following as well. That was just going to enhance that sentiment even more. So
it was pretty quick.
Exactly. And I think people just saw this bounce right off 25K, and we'll get to this, but then actually a pump off of the Coinbase news yesterday. That, people were like, oh, okay, well, maybe this isn't that big of a deal. But yeah, anyway, in terms of the actual Binance suit, Binance denies and is fighting back, of course. CZ has said as much. I actually just saw something where he said that he doesn't have to appear in court.
I heard that as well.
Technically, yeah. So what do you make of this? I mean, they're both different situations where we're going to talk more specifically about the Coinbase one, but basically the difference is, it sounds like with the SEC, with Coinbase, they're more going after these specific securities they believe Coinbase is listing, versus Binance is all other kinds of issues. And I know you've been kind of outspoken about them basically faking like volume and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's one of the things that they're, the SEC brought up was wash trading, fake volume, things like that. And, we just saw it 3 weeks ago when PulseChain launched. We were moving up the ranks of the decentralized list, the ranking list, and we got into number 2 past Binance. And immediately these fake tokens were created with all kind of fake volume just to get their numbers back up, and they passed us back up all within several hours. So yeah, that's one of the things that they're going after them for. As well as commingling of funds. Now that is a big thing, and that that is serious because now you're talking about investors' money. What are you doing with it when they put it over into the Binance system? Are you making investments that you shouldn't be making? Kind of like what FTX did. They had a bunch of amateurs running the show over there at FTX, and that's kind of why it imploded like it did. I think there's a little bit more sophistication with the system that Binance has. They've been in business a lot longer. CZ knows what he's doing. I hate to say it, but they're pretty slick about it. So, it's just I've had a major dislike ever since. First of all, I'm glad that HEX has never been listed on that platform, either one of them. So, we're good there. But at the same time, it just makes you wonder what really does go on. Here we go, back behind closed doors with some of these companies. What are they doing? There's obviously information somewhere that gave them the reason to draw this suit, or maybe there wasn't. Who knows? Maybe they're just firing and throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. So, yeah, as far as CZ will not come out of hiding. He'll never come to a court hearing or whatever in the United States. I think he's overseas somewhere and in hiding. I'm surprised they were able to get a suit through. Maybe they filed it on Twitter, just like the other one against CoinMarketCap was served. I'm sure somebody got his attention though, or somebody in the company. But yeah, it's just it's a weird scenario. Both of them with Binance, I could care less. I know it's a big on and off ramp, and it would hurt adoption into crypto because I know there are a lot of people that do use some of these. In fact, myself, I use Coinbase occasionally to get money in and out of crypto. So it would suck, but we keep pushing for the whole decentralized idea of things. but you still need those on and off ramps. So
yeah. Coinbase and Kraken have really been the two that I've been using as on and off ramps for the last year, basically. But yeah, you're right. And I wanted to just touch on this. Charles Hoskinson had one of the tweets of the day, I think, when the Binance news came down that CZ actually responded to as well. But Charles Hoskinson, obviously the creator of Cardano. Yeah. But he did say the other day, with respect to Binance, I'm reading through the SEC complaint. It's over 130 pages, but seems like the next in a series of steps to implement Choke Point 2.0 in the United States. The end goal is an agenda-based CBDC, obviously, partnered with a handful of massive banks and end-to-end control over every aspect of your financial life.
Yep.
Which a lot of people in the United States wouldn't mind, as terrible as that is.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Or they don't think they would anyway. A regulatory event is where you have a debate about compliance with a law or guidance. This event seems to be a political philosophical agreement with the very existence of cryptocurrencies and what they represent. An unelected group of people have decided that concepts like self-sovereign identity, owning your own wallet, and the freedom to control your economic agency should be removed from the masses and given to the enlightened few. That's just calling it as it is.
Yep.
He says, honestly, what is happening? What's happening isn't anything new, which is true. It's always the same fight between freedom and authoritarianism, just with different players, technology, and words. It does seem like this event is a perfect opportunity for the entire industry to set aside its fragmented nature, unite, yada, 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 so we don't look like, 1984 come to life, basically. So, yeah, so a really good tweet from him, and he is right, and we always have that debate in crypto of like there is a fragmented nature, there's obviously, and I don't know if that's because of the maybe like that this financial crowd skews younger. I'm not really sure what it is. Maybe it's an investment vehicle more in its infancy, but yeah, you have like the DeFi crowd, and you have specific crowds within that. You have maxis of Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff. And he is right about that. But I agree with him 100%. I mean, I don't hold any Cardano, obviously, or anything like that. But I'm totally with him that, like, yeah, this is a thing that we all should be fighting back on. I mean, that's the idea of crypto, is that self-sovereignty. So what do you
exactly? Well, yeah, the idea of it was to remove the middlemen. They want to inject more of them. It's an interesting take that Clifton Lewis has, though, too, is that it's a bluff. They know they're holding a losing hand. They're just trying to make the bad publicity because they think they, may lose the XRP case. So who knows? It is quite possible. That's a good point. I didn't think of it that way, that they, even whether they're bluffing or not,
hedging their bets.
Yeah, it's still bad press. It's bad for the space. It gives, paints a bad light on the whole crypto as a whole. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I like Hoskinson. I know he's a smart guy. And I did read through his response the other day too, and thought it was just very well stated. And he hits it on the head, knocks it out of the park.
He definitely does. He had a nice half-hour stream talking about it too, which I thought was pretty good. But yeah, he's always good in these instances. Now, the other interesting aspect of this, so the SEC mentioned there's another hilarious thing about this. So with the Binance one, they specifically mentioned Solana, Matic, Cardano, BNB, Algorand, and Atom, amongst a couple others, as what they labeled as securities. They were referring to what Binance was doing, but I think they actually, I have it all here.
I think it was Dash was one of them as well.
Yeah, just digging Dash up out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, pulling that one out of the skeletons, right?
Yeah, a lot of people around now probably don't even know what it is, but yeah, that amongst others, Near Protocol, actually, I saw mentioned. Some of these, what I'm naming, they name for Binance, some of these Coinbase, but you can tell. And our friend Sami, that I quote quite often, and he's totally right. Not that he even needed him to figure this out, but if you just look at those tokens, it's practically just like going on CoinMarketCap and going down the market cap list.
Yep.
So yeah, they're just picking out the most popular tokens, calling. These are all things that you and I don't invest in anyway, and don't really talk about very much. Or obviously you guys out there can do whatever you want, but these are really like second, third cycle tokens that are not anything we're interested in, but it's still to just slap this label on them out of nowhere like that. More irresponsibility by the SEC when you don't really give anybody any clear guidance on anything, and then you just come after them. But I did think it was interesting that they didn't mention Ethereum though in that.
No, they didn't.
Which obviously, if you go by market cap, that's going to be number 2. So,
well, yeah, and the last hearing that there was, I don't know if you remember the questioning where it was flat out, is Ethereum a security? Asked him several times, and he wouldn't answer. So, yeah, it's just there's so much. I got a moth in here or something. Crazy. Yeah. There's so much obscurity caused by them. I mean, they're the ones causing it because they can't be clear on anything. They won't give anybody a straight answer. People are trying to comply, and when they do, they make them wait. It's like they're not even giving them the answers that they're looking for to stay compliant. So, it's just it's a bad setup. It's almost like they're cornering them on purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I think they definitely are. Doing something at the request of our friend Andrew here in the chat. Just trying to do kind of a sentiment check on what people are doing with their crypto investments. But yeah, so I just put in the chat, what are you guys doing right now? Buying, holding, selling? God bless you if you're selling. But yeah, we'll get a little bit of data on that. But yeah, if you are here, hit the like, obviously, subscribe to the channel. We very much appreciate it. And I'm with you, Ewok. I mean, yeah, this they're just naming coins out of nowhere, kind of just throwing a dart at some of the top rated ones and going after them. So it's once again, it's just a total lack of any kind of clarity from the SEC, and then just suing people after the fact. Now, this isn't even the worst one. So that's Binance. The Coinbase one is far, far worse. So Coinbase then the next morning theatrically sued by the SEC, says that they are acting as an unregistered broker. And the funny thing about that, okay, so, and a lot of people have pointed this out right away, and that this is exactly what we're talking about. This is exactly what we're talking about with Gensler, which we forgot to mention, something we just now found out about him and Binance that we'll mention in a minute. But why did the SEC approve of Coinbase being a public company, and I believe it was 2019, to sell all of these quote unquote illegal securities on it? Brian Armstrong, as we know, and again, love Coinbase, hate Coinbase, same with Brian Armstrong. He has specifically, more than anybody probably, reached out for clarity, to creating a bridge to the SEC. He's when he's in Washington, D.C., he's posting pics of him with meeting with people and stuff like that. He has covered his bases, and this is what he's getting back from the SEC. So, but not only that, like I just said, I mean, like they approved Coinbase as a public. So you approve of their actions after thoroughly vetting them, supposedly, and now you're suing them for this.
Yeah.
So which is it? Yeah.
Well, it just goes back to the whole thing. Like I said, people are trying. It was, I believe Gemini had attempted, Kraken has attempted, and at this point, they're like, well, screw it. They're not going to give us clear answer. We're just going to pay the fine. It's cheaper to pay the fine, and, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness later kind of thing. It's just, that's the situation that we're in with a lot of this stuff. And it's because, again, there is no clarity. No one knows what the hell's going on. They don't want to give straight answers, and it's for that reason. It's because if they give an answer or determine something a security or a non-security or a commodity, then they're stuck. That is, they can't go back on it later and change their minds. So with all the back and forth flip-flopping that they do, they want obscurity. And they don't want people to know. Again, it's part of their plan to just corner this market and choke it out. People are going to leave the country and go elsewhere. It's sad.
Yeah, it is, and it does suck. We've had this conversation, but it does suck for the United States. You could be like on the burgeoning front of these innovations. You know what I mean? Like you could be there for it, but they're taking actions to drive it out. We've talked about before, nobody's here to politicize crypto. We, anyway, are not here to politicize crypto. Crypto's for the people. Crypto's for everybody. Politicians are doing that. And you're not going to see one single Democrat, in favor of anything dealing with self-sovereignty. I mean, that is, the term liberal can be thrown out the window. There's just not people on that side of the aisle that want you to have freedom. I mean, it's just not how they are right now. So
it's funny the difference between liberal and libertarian. It really is, even though they're very similar words. They have such different meaning, especially when it comes to crypto stuff.
Yes. Yeah. We're definitely seeing the shift as far as that goes. You're only going to get like some very specific types of Republicans that are going to really speak out about this kind of stuff right now. But I want to quote a tweet actually from Adam Cochran on Twitter the other day, just at Adam S. Cochran. He was talking about he said world of difference in the claims between Binance and Coinbase from the SEC. So the SEC is claiming they allowed an unregistered broker, again, as I said, dealer, to be reviewed, IPO, and public trade for years without action or guidance in terms of Coinbase, so that's why that one is far, far worse. I mentioned a link between Gary Gensler and Binance that we just saw. It was just tweeted by Watcher Guru or whatever right before we got on the air.
Wake Dog just brought it up too.
Yeah. So there you go. Thanks, Wake Dog. So Gensler applied as an advisor for Binance and got turned down. So what do you make of that? I mean, like, is this guy just going to wherever, he's best served personally? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, you could say revenge, but I mean, he's going after everybody, Wake Dog, too. So I know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I don't know. I don't know.
It could be a sore spot for the whole space. Maybe he was kind of not welcome anywhere. And he just has it out for everybody. I really can't wait for this whole committee thing to hopefully get set up. And, the head of the SEC, the chairperson, needs to just go away. This needs to be handled by a group of individuals, not just one person. Because if there is revenge or if there's anything like that, that all needs to be eliminated. You can't operate business that way. It's not good for any of us, really. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, certainly not fun stuff to be dealing with now and reading about. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, where do you come out on what will go down with this Ewok? Because we have both said, and I totally believe this, all those coins that they listed as potential securities, I don't think they're going to be officially labeled as securities. I don't think they're going to be delisted from exchanges. This stuff is all going to take forever. And usually how it works out is some kind of regulation agreement is found and you move forward. That's just kind of where it is. I was talking to somebody earlier today and comparing elements of this anyway to like the drug war, which we all know was massively disastrous. You know what I mean? Just waste of money. You can't ban cryptocurrency. I mean, you can delay these things and try to throw these blockages and meaningless lawsuits in the way and stuff like that. But it's like banning the wheel. I mean, this stuff is out there. It's going to be there. And if you would actually do your job as Gary Gensler in the SEC and provide some clarity on what you want, which you won't do, you literally won't say what your opinion is of Ethereum when pressed about it.
Right.
I mean, what are you going to get from these people? And it's not even asking for like that, it's simply asking for clarity. It's not asking for like, you're going to call it a commodity, you're going to play by my rules. It's just wanting some kind of clarity. So how do you think this all shakes out? I mean, are you kind of like me? Like, do you think that it just kind of fizzles out and we get some kind of, I don't know. I'm not worried about it. I'll be honest.
Well, the whole Gandhi statement where, they say first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. Well, we're at the they fight you stage. It's one of those things where I think the space is big enough where they can fight you. It's not going to, play out well. There's really not a whole lot they can do with DeFi. They can shut the on and off ramps down, but people will start to learn to transact in their type of currency. So So I think that,
Oh,
sorry, no, I had a cough
you're
there.
good.
Um, you know, it, things will evolve, things will come of this, and they can fight all they want, but there's enough people that are in this space that will fight back. And
Yeah.
hopefully we get a few good politicians that are on our side as well, as far as regulation, as far as the digital aspects of it, the companies, the innovations, things like that. We want to keep some of that in the United States. We don't want it to go abroad. We lose some of that business. It just doesn't make sense. It's not a good
Mhm.
business choice for them either, to get rid of crypto if they want to crack down on taxes or whatever they think people are doing. But there's more people that are laundering money and using it illegally with cash.
Yeah.
So it's just it's we're at that point, like I said, where this is they fight you. And yeah, Wake Dog said it too. And that's we will come out victorious, or we'll just kind of operate in our own space. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, in pure volume, I mean, there's much more corruption in dollars than there is
Yeah,
in crypto. I mean,
absolutely.
there's more of them, and it's been happening since the beginning of the time. And that's the lie that they like to continue to tell everybody is that, the safe old way of doing things is the right way to do it just because it's the old way. It
Right.
doesn't matter that there's also millions of issues there as well. So,
Yeah, and then they make the comments like, "Oh, well, we already have digital money. It's called the US dollar. What do we need the other stuff?" You know what I mean?
right.
It doesn't make sense. Well, if we already have it, then why are you fighting it? If you think it's so good, why are you fighting it? They're obviously threatened. They're intimidated by it. And they don't want people to gain wealth ahead of them. So there's a lot of reasons by this whole fight that they're trying to do. There's multiple reasons, but that's one of them too, is they don't want people to shy away from their dollar, which they think is all superior, that they can control. So
Yeah. Yeah, and make no mistake, we've talked about Fed Now, a very creative name, this CBDC that's basically launching next month, I guess, in the United States. It's a surveillance tool. I mean, pure and simple. It has
yep.
nothing really to do with convenience or anything like that. That's what the guise will be, but it's about, seeing what you're doing with your money and your life. But obviously, to wrap up the Coinbase thing and these lawsuits, Brian Armstrong obviously put out a lengthy tweet as well, just basically saying that, of course, they're going to fight this. And he even specified too, this lawsuit is much different from the others. They're just purely focusing on what is or isn't a security. He feels comfortable with where they're at in terms of the law with that. And yeah, they'll fight it. So yeah, we'll see how it shakes out.
Well, as
But
they happen, I believe they
yeah,
filed suit against the SEC
they did
already.
first. Yeah.
So this is I don't know what to say, it's a countersuit, but it's a whole new different a different suit. But yeah, they've already bought files against them, charges. So we'll see what happens.
Well, like I said, it's like Oprah. You get sued, you get sued, you get sued,
Yeah,
you get sued. So
everybody
should be a
gets
fun
sued.
time. Exactly. So if you guys are digging the stream, we're going to transition into the more fun stuff here now. But hit the like, subscribe to the Creed of Crypto channel. We very much appreciate it. Thank you guys for coming along for the ride. And of course, if you have questions or comments in the chat, hit us up for sure. This is a pretty lively chat tonight for us talking about dumb shit, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But good stuff. We appreciate you guys being here. Let's move over to PulseChain. Let's move into DeFi, something we're way more interested in right now. PulseChain, HEX, everything that is going on in this ecosystem right now. So last Friday, we'll start off with kind of a better piece of news and then get into some of the other things that are going on. But Richard Hart tweeted last Friday, the 2nd, that the native PulseChain bridge was out. So basically, I mean, this is a big thing. For the first couple of weeks here of PulseChain, we've been talking about how there were all these people that may have even sacrificed for PulseX and were able to get into the ecosystem, but didn't have any Pulse tokens to transact. But
Yeah.
we're solving this issue with a lot of there, and there's multiple of these bridges coming out. So what did you make of when this news came out from Richard? And I know you're more familiar with some of the other bridges and ways of coming over with wrapped Pulse on Ethereum. So what do you make of it, Ewok?
Well, that's what the new bridge is actually. So you can
Mm-hmm.
buy wrapped Pulse. Now, keep in mind there are still 2 contracts out there. there was a new wrapped Pulse contract address that you need to look for if you're going to do it the new way. So with the update to the bridge, what it does is if you buy the correct contract address of wrapped Pulse on Ethereum, send it across the bridge, it will automatically unwrap for you. So then you have the native Pulse token in your wallet and can do something. Like you had mentioned earlier, if you had wrapped Pulse and sent it across the bridge, then you still needed Pulse tokens to unwrap it, and you couldn't do that. So there were a lot of people that were stuck, that couldn't do any transacting. A lot of people that did pHEX and ended up getting one free Pulse. Didn't amount to much because of the fees and the way they're priced out. Yes, it's only a few cents, but it was still 1,000 or a couple thousand Pulse to do the transaction. So, that was a major hurdle that they kind of got past. So, that was the first one. And then a few days later, we had, some announcements of some native PulseChain on ramps. The guys from Pulse Burn, they created one. That was a pleasant surprise. Today I saw something that said they were out of Pulse, and they had to reload. So it was down for a little bit. They had to get some time. So I'm not sure how that's working. Whether there's a exchange contract, something weird going on. But that worked as well. And then I forget what the other one was.
I'm checking right now.
Just came out yesterday or the day before.
So did you mention the Pulse on ramp, the PLSonramp.com?
Okay, that's the other one. Pulse on ramp. Yep. No, I did not mention it. I mentioned Pulse Burn.
Yes.
PulseBurn.com, PLSburn.com/buy, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
Was that one. And then the on-ramp one, and you have the guys from OX Coast. Theirs will be coming out in beta, I believe, in the next day or so. I think they said by the end of this week. So that is also an on and off ramp, not just on. So, things are looking up. Things are good. I know we heard Richard say one thing. He's like, I'm definitely not going to stream at least until we have the native on ramp coming, which are, the bridge that takes care of the unwrapping of the tokens for you. So we have that. But a lot of people are hounding him about streaming, and yes, we all want to see a stream from Richard, but he's busy. So if you're really craving some of the stuff, go back and watch some of his older videos. I think, at least until we get it, begging him and asking him why he isn't streaming isn't going to do any good. He's, he doesn't remember. This is all, you do the work. If you want it done, you do it. He doesn't work for us, and he's made that crystal clear many times. So,
well, I think it's also, I think part of it too, he really likes this idea. I mean, we saw it throughout 2022, heading into 2023, and, waiting until May for PulseChain. He really likes this idea of letting things bleed out as much as they possibly can.
Yeah.
And I think it's for the best. I mean, I really think it's for the best to, PulseChain came out far later than people initially anticipated, obviously. All the disaster at the end of 22 with HEX and the HEX price and everything, people were like calling for him to be out there more. He kind of just was radio silent there for a period last year in the fall. And I think he really enjoys that, not like to mess with people. I think he wants to bleed out.
I agree.
Every single weak hand, call it whatever you want, non-believer, whatever.
Lettuce hand, soy boy, whatever you want to call them. And, I agree. Thanks, Brizology, for the compliment. We appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. But I do think that's good for him. So, yeah, we're going to see him for sure. And again, it's just like why did people value PulseChain so much? Well, obviously they were already going to value it because it was a Richard Hart product. They already saw how HEX worked and everything. It's one of the best built things in DeFi. But don't take waiting out of the equation, especially when people sacrifice for tokens or whatever, and then there's a 1.5, 2-year long wait. That anticipation builds that even more. I think some of us may have experience with that in the bedroom. The anticipation is sometimes, better than the main course, maybe for the girl anyway. But I mean, it is a big thing, and it really does, lead people to be feverish about it. I mean, look at the fever pitch about PulseChain. Now here we are with HEX at the lowest price it's been at in forever, but we're getting as to why. And I think that Richard, I think he's purposely doing that. So what did Briz have to say there?
He says so many Richard Hart haters sacrifice just to sell it to 2 to 10x because they know he doesn't fail. So, I agree with that too. There's a lot of people that got into these sacrifices that were looking for a quick flip. They thought it was going to happen, within weeks. And, we warned about that early and said, look at some of the other charts. That's not how it works. So, yeah, I'm happy if they sell at a 2x or whatever it may be. Get him out of there. So, yeah, maybe better that he's not streaming and not pumping, or I don't want to say pumping the price, but it's more active when he streams. It's definitely, things are more exciting when he's putting himself out there and giving his free alpha for sure. So
I agree. And that's a great lead in to this, because we are at some of the most depressed prices that we've seen consistently on the whole PulseChain ecosystem right now. I was just going to actually check where we are. So we have Pulse at, it's only a little above the SAC rate at this point now. So we're at 3 zeros, 1, 2. Remember, the SAC rate would be 3 zeros and a 1 for that and PulseX. PulseX has been on a discount from the SAC rate for quite some time now, about 50% discount now at about 53, 54% at 4 zeros and a 4.7. We've got the great HEX on Ethereum versus HEX on PulseChain debate that everybody's sick of. HEX on Ethereum just pretty much almost a penny flat right now. This is the low. I mean, this is the low for HEX on Ethereum right now. You're seeing it live. And HEX on PulseChain is a little under 1.5 cents now, 1.4 cents or so. They maintain that roughly 30% spread between them, about 34% right now. So, and that awesome site too. Yeah, that you're pulling up there, Ewok. Maybe I'll throw that one in the chat. That's
I just did.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Phraseology. It's called pulsexprices.com. The guys from
Pulse Burn?
No, the guys from Maximus created this just the other day. So it's got all it's a really neat site. It's got your wrapped pulse, PulseX, it's incentive, both hexes, Maximus, Decimus, Lucky, Trio, Base, also has Hedron and Icosa here. So yeah, pretty cool site. Check it out. It is what it is. There's nothing to it besides prices. It doesn't do anything else, but it is a great source. So,
well, obviously it was necessary because I had just been going to the DEX. I had just been going to PulseX and punching in, whatever token I wanted to look at. But what my point was with where these prices are right now, Ewok, and we're whether we're actually at the lows on the chart, because I know PulseX was down like 92% in the first couple of days or something like that. But I'm talking as far as like prices people could really buy other than ratio trading now.
Right.
You just mentioned it about like HEX bottoming on day 33. And we're very, very close to that in PulseChain here. Today's Wednesday. I think Friday will be 4 weeks.
So
which
28
crazy.
days.
Yeah, 28 days. So
we got another week of this stuff. Maybe, like I said, history doesn't always repeat itself, but it usually rhymes pretty close. So, we're getting into that target area where if you guys aren't loading up, it could last a few more weeks, but now's a perfect opportunity with all of these tokens. I mean, everything's at a discount right now. So you're silly not to be picking up some of it. And even some of these Some of these pooled tokens, they're great because there is no unstaking fee. You've got your automatic Maximus, which is a 15-year stake. You've got Decimus, which is a 10-year stake. Lucky is 7, Trio is 3, Base is 1 year, and it just keeps recurring on that 1 year. And the beauty of them is you buy the token, and you don't have to pay the gas fee to unstake it. The pool kind of does it for you, or you get a voluntary whale that ends the stake, and save on money. So it's another bonus that people just aren't really talking about or thinking about. So
yeah,
some great prices right now.
There definitely are. And I guess like we could address too, because there are a sector of people that are, I feel like, and I don't know, maybe it's because PulseChain is out. Like, once again, it's only been about 4 weeks, but we've got all this negative stuff. We've had, people fighting over eHEX versus pHEX, which I do have something else I want to say on that. I can't help myself. I want to say it in a minute here, but we've had that stuff going on, and, people within that community kind of eating each other alive and stuff. But it's like, this thing has still barely even been out, and we should have this opportunity, to get in at very good prices for the next 6 months anyway. I think not maybe where we're at right now and where we'll be over the next couple of weeks, but we will have time to continue to DCA into this. It's never going to be the PulseChain launches and everything just goes immediately way up and to the right. So I guess what my point is that there's a lot of FUD just because this launched and the prices are not where people want them to be. And, people are upset that they sacrificed, obviously, for pHEX so long ago, and you've been able to buy it for lower than that for weeks now, But I'll just get into this, Ewok. So the big thing so far, probably the biggest, whatever you want to call it, fudding thing, disagreement thing, has been the eHEX versus pHEX thing. We've all been talking about like it being at parity, whatever that means to you. Yeah, there you go. I saw South Park in the background. I was excited for that.
We're beating a dead horse here.
Yeah, we're beating a dead horse for sure, but I want to beat it from a different angle, I guess.
You're good.
Something that I keep hearing people say, and by people I mean like one person, and I think we all know who he is probably, but not only that, but like the people that are watching his channel too, is I'm seeing like this statement, like all this making fun of like OG hex maxi, like eHEX maxis that are shitting on the Pulse version of hex to pump their own back. I'm not seeing anyone do that.
Nope, I'm not either.
I would love to be filled in for who it is. The two sides I see are people that are saying eHEX is inferior to pHEX, which I don't disagree with necessarily. Saying that it's not going to achieve parity, it's not going to do as well, yada, yada, yada. Whatever you want to say, whether they're saying it's going to 0 or that won't be parity, whatever it is. I'm not seeing one person say that you shouldn't buy hex on PulseChain. You should only be focused on eHEX. I haven't seen anybody do that. I think you have people that are supporters of like all 4 tokens, want to own them all, in harmony, and then somebody who's saying totally ditch eHEX. That's what I'm seeing. I don't.
Yeah, I haven't seen any Hex OG act that way. To say that eHEX is superior, screw pHEX. I haven't seen it. They just said we don't want to let it die, though. Why would you want to let it die when you have value? It just doesn't make sense. But yeah, I have seen no one say we're totally dissing this brand new thing that Richard Hart created to support hex, so that we could afford the fees that when when Ethereum gets out of control in the heat of a bull market, the fees get crazy. So that's why PulseChain exists in the first place. I don't see anybody saying screw that chain, we're going to support this one and this one only. I haven't seen one camp that is saying that thing. And like you said, people want all 5 coins, obviously, because somebody market bought $1 million worth of incentive tokens the other day,
right?
Which couldn't believe it. Have an idea who it might have been, but people want all 5 coins. So, there is no this versus this. I mean, they have value. Let's why not support it? Unless you dumped your whole bag in expectation to just move everything over, and then that's your own damn fault. So sorry, can't help you.
Well, and I think a lot of people did that, and
Well,
that's
they
their own
did.
prerogative. That's their own prerogative. Like if that's what you want to
Absolutely.
do, that's totally fine. Like there's
Absolutely.
reasons that people that haven't done that haven't done it, and this goes back to that thing. And I don't know how people cannot understand this, but like regardless of what you think, you know what I mean? And I think some people are just simply stating that if they want to onboard new people into Hex, they're going to lead them to PulseChain, not Ethereum. I'm not going to argue with you on that. I think that's a different argument. I think or a different conversation, I could say. I'm not going to argue however you want to do that on either side, because you could also make the argument that, to initially be familiar with it, showing it to them on Ethereum might actually be better if there's somebody who already maybe holds Ethereum and is kind of used to doing stuff on there. So I think you can say that argument too. I don't think it's like this big dramatic thing like everybody keeps acting like it is. But what these people have to remember is regardless of your opinion, what you think is going to be best down the road, and I think we all agree that PulseChain right now is going to be better than transacting on Ethereum, obviously. A market is what you have to pay attention to. It does not matter what you think. It matters what the market thinks.
Exactly.
And you are just a small peon in this market. So I know that what I am doing, not telling anybody else, and that's what I think is good about this. We always say like, oh, not giving financial advice. And it is true. It's sharing your experience, which I think is more valuable, actually. My experience, and I know yours, Ewok, is that I want to be involved in all of them, and I'm going to be involved in all of them, So,
well, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to do anything rash, at least until the market decides. If it dies, then I may pivot, whatever. If we just can't get a floor or whatever, and it's a kind of a consensus thing, but then we go back to, do we really want to let Hex die on Ethereum? Can you imagine all the haters that said, see, we told you it would go to zero, and they don't know that PulseChain exists, probably even. It's a bad front. It doesn't look good. And even better when we've got this community that can support both sides. I don't think there's any reason to not support it, at least until, like you said, let the market decide. If it decides that it's not going to happen, then we do move our economic energy over, if there's any left at that point. But I'm staked out for 15 years.
So, what are you going to do?
I'm not ending stakes. I'm not emergency unstaking stuff just to make this happen. I'm not doing that. It doesn't make sense, because what if it doesn't? And then I've just burned all of that energy for what? Why not have double? We've talked about this. The split. It's a stock split. Why wouldn't you support it? It doesn't make sense to me. So.
I totally agree. Yeah. I totally agree. And I'm with you. I get the beating a dead horse meme. I completely understand it, but I do think it is still a worthwhile conversation because of some of the like incessant. I just think it's asinine for people saying that they're just ditching eHEX. I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. I'm just stating that like I don't think the market is going to do that, and I'm going to side with. I want to own them all, for lack of a better way of putting it. So, I'm sorry, Briz. I thought you were saying you didn't know who I was referring to as far as who was the one saying to get out of eHEX. Yeah, I don't know who bought the million of ink. You'll have to talk to Ewok off the air on that one.
Well, I'll say it. I think it was. No. I think it was the OA.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Because there was no pre-mine, and while these prices are pretty low. That could have been a very close to bottom signal for the prices of these coins if it were the OA and there was some speculation being done. My wild guess. I have no proof. I didn't do any kind of chain analysis to figure it out to see who it was. It's just pure speculation, but.
Well, I want to mention this, and we did say this a little bit last week as well, but everybody, obviously, for good reason, for a better part of a month, it's been all PulseChain talk in this ecosystem, and not hating on that or anything, but we kind of did a little segment last week where we restated what HEX was. You kind of broke down that smart contract and stuff like that. But hey, I think it's important to keep reinforcing these messages right now, especially as the prices are down right now. People are going to get frustrated. Like we were talking about us running out of dry powder, you know, like with buying all these dips and everything. But it is always, I think, good to restate what the power of HEX is, why people have been addicted to it and have defended it like Jesus Christ himself over the last 3 years, you know, prior to PulseChain being launched. And, you know, I think people are also forgetting about how great of a creation Alex McWhirter's made with Hedron and Icosa and the unbelievably crazy Icosa yield that you can get. All these cool trinkets and toys that people were playing with on HEX before PulseChain are being forgotten about right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it is crazy, but I think it's important to like remember that when the market is down and when prices are down, and especially if you are running out of dry powder, not able to buy some of these lows on PulseX and all these things right now, you may, if you have HEX stakes, you have access to Hedron. If you have access to Hedron, you can have access to Icosa. If you have access to Icosa, you can have access to more Icosa by a lot by staking that out. So talk about that too, Ewok. I mean, like that's been the big thing that you've mentioned before is like even in those down times, I mean, HEX suffered a similar, if not worse, fate through the bear market as many of these tokens down now 98%.
Sure.
But with being able to earn certain yield, Hedron and Icosa, talk about all those benefits and how that can kind of tide you over.
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at something like you said, they're down 95, 98%. But when you look at the yield that you're earning, you got to add that in. When you look at the free Hedron and you look at the Icosa that came because of the Hedron that you maybe staked, you got to add that in. And then you started staking your Icosa and earned yield on that, and you got to add that in. You might be down 50% if you think about it. And your HEX is still making more HEX. So that's not going to change. You know, I got into a little bit of an online argument with someone today about PulseChain, and it was like the guy kind of triggered me, I guess. But we were talking about Matic, and I think it was Matic. It was either, I don't know what coin it was, but the guy was like, "What makes you think they're gonna come over there?" or something like that. The price is 0, and I'm like, "Well, the hexagons aren't going to add your liquidity for you. You know, you've got to get the community behind it and have them add the liquidity. They can make value. It's all about you know, the community getting behind it. Just look at the hexagons. Look what we've done, providing liquidity with some of these pairs to make them, you know, real and have a price. It doesn't take a whole lot. Any community could come over and do that because they got half of them for free. So, you know, his point was like, well, you can't just take a picture, have a coin with 100 million, and now you have 200 million, and they automatically have value. I'm like, well, yeah, you can. You know, just, you know, that's, and I said, whenever the Ethereum network gets out of hand, people will go where their money is treated best. So, you know, it could take time. It could take time for some of these communities to come over once they realize that the fees are getting out of hand. I think, you know, they're not going to do it right away. But if they're trying to build or do anything of any kind of value and it gets too expensive to transact, then that could be a perfect opportunity to see a influx of other communities coming over. So, yeah, even if it doesn't happen right away, you know, sorry, I got off track a little bit, but the point was, you know, just because you're down 95% or whatever it may be, you've got to figure in all that other stuff too. There's so much value that has been created out of thin air. Magic people, you know, yeah, you can take a picture and get value out of things if people put the liquidity, the markets are made. So yeah, it's crazy, and we have to remind people of that. And I honestly think as more people do come over, they will find HEX. It could take a little bit longer. And, you know, we already know, like, a lot of people got into these sacrifices that just wanted a quick flip. So could take a little bit longer. You know, when we do see rises in price, they may take that 2 or 3x. most of the hexagons have sat through what 13 doubles with hex and still didn't sell. So there's a lot more diamond-handed type people, but we got to wash a lot of that stuff out first before we can really run up.
Well, two things to your point, like you just said about people going where their money is treated best. Yeah, I think when we get into the bullish times, and I'm talking like, Matt Damon Super Bowl commercials for crypto.com and stuff like that vibes, like in 2025, yeah, you may see people from those communities, maybe even prior to then, start to really realize that they do have a copy of these tokens on PulseChain and come over to check them out. And I think it's useful right now. And it might be a good predictor. I think it is probably a good predictor because, well, let's look at it this way. Everybody acted like leading up to PulseChain that it was stupid to look at the ratios and things like that on the test nets, even though they've proven out. Like, I mean, the pulse to pulse X ratio has kind of reflected what we saw on some of those test nets. But something similar to that, like right now, for example, like on that pulsecoinlist.com, I think we shared that in the chat last week as well. But looking at like the ERC20 to PRC20 token comparison there, I think it's interesting to look at the non-RH ecosystem tokens that are ranked the highest in total value locked, even though it's not really locked, but total TVL on PulseChain, because it jives with what we were expecting. And I think we could only see that grow. Number 10 overall, but number 1 outside of, not that RH made Hedron, but going outside of hex type stuff, Shiba Inu's number 10. So in other words, number 1 non-hex token. Chainlink is right behind that at number 11. So number 2. Yearn Finance, weirdly, is shortly after that, but Pepe is shortly after that. So, I mean, you can see there's ApeCoin. Yeah. So you're going to have like the memes in there right now, but then there's Aave after that. There's Quant, Uniswap. So those are tokens that maybe down the road, particularly those first few, I think, we know have like good communities. Say what you will about it or about Shiba Inu, they're making their own little Shibarium or whatever ecosystem. I don't know. We know Chainlink's got a good community. Pepe obviously is the new hot meme token and stuff. Aave, we have a fork of that coming to PulseChain. Yeah, that might be indicative of what we see down the road as far as these other ERC20 copies,
Yep, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. Brusology asks an interesting question, and I mean, I like where he's thinking here. He says, do you guys think providing liquidity might be the perfect way to exit the bull market or exit the market in a bull and to DCA in a bear? And, we've talked about this before. Maybe we haven't here, but I've seen a lot of actually other streams talk about this as one of the ways to exit the market is to provide liquidity. Now you have to provide it with a stable coin if you really want to get out. But the only caveat to that is you have to really pay attention to your position, because what'll happen is as it goes up and down, you may fill on the USD side, and then if it dips back down, you'll refill the coin that you just sold. So if you don't pull your liquidity, you're gonna, you may have it and then you may lose it. So, because we don't have single-sided liquidity positions yet, I'm sure they'll be coming, at some point. But yeah, you're totally right. And on the flip side too, I don't know. I don't like the thought of providing liquidity in a bear market because if it does run away from you, you get really lopsided with impermanent loss. I think it works really well in a bull market to exit some position at a certain point. But I don't like it in a bear market because you just never know when it's going to turn around. And it could run away from you very quickly, and you're stuck with the coin that you really don't want any of. So just be careful of that. You really have to be careful.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you're talking in terms of like funds being locked up for any period of time, and yeah, it could really get away from you quickly. But
well, you're not locked up when you provide liquidity. You can exit at any time.
true,
It's just a matter of, do you want another job sitting there watching it?
right?
So
Yeah, and you got to be really careful at those points. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, hey, I think we covered a lot of really good stuff tonight. I mean, like, yeah, I know it's not all necessarily sunshine and rainbows and PulseChain to the moon right now or anything, but these are still great opportunities.
patience,
And
grasshopper. Patience, grasshopper.
yes, and I know we're saying it till we're blue in the face, but this is just a weird year. You're going to have this oscillation in between of like, oh yeah, it's over, like things are good now. We went through 30K for a minute, and Pepe and PulseChain's out now, and then all of a sudden it's like nobody seems to give a shit about PulseChain. I mean, it's just we're waiting for retail to still really get back to this market, and just something that's been helping me. Not that I'm like writing it in stone or anything, but is to think about like with some of these purchases you're making right now when you're buying PulseChain, pHEX, Hex, whatever it is. Think about whatever number you believe is the minimum amount of X's you will get off of each purchase. Just try to think of what that is going to be worth in just 2 short years, possibly. Just try to think like, okay, even if you're just putting in like a couple $100 today or something like that, just think of whatever that is for you, whether that's 30X, 50X, 200X, whatever you think it's going to be. I think it's good to think of it that way. And then just, we are just waiting. Like it's just sitting here waiting for people to come back to the market. But in the meantime, this is when, if you want to be around and sell at higher prices, it would make sense to be buying right now. And that's what we're definitely doing. So,
it may not get much lower, but it could. Who knows? We really just don't know. I wish we had a crystal ball to know when the bottom is in, but and that's why we people talk about this all the time is if you bought the bottom and sold the top. Well, no one really ever does that. That's why DCA is such an important strategy, is because for you there's only one person that can buy the bottom. That really there's one person that will make that price, and there's one guy that will make that top. So to be that guy twice is highly improbable. So, that's why, like I said, DCA is your best strategy. You can catch it on the way down, throw more dry powder at it as you can, and hopefully you get close to those levels. But if you're not buying, you never will. So
yeah.
Let me see. What does this question say? Can we?
Yeah, I was gonna let you look at that. Yeah. I don't know if he means like T-share losing its value. Does he maybe mean like people getting out of eHEX, like what's happening to the T-share value on Ethereum? I'm not sure.
Can you explain why T-share are losing its value? In the price of the dollar, it's losing its value. So the cost of a T-share is going down only because the price of Hex is going down. The value that it creates, though, is not going down. The price of a T-share will only go up. If the price of Hex stays flat, it will only go up. So because the cost to get a T-share increases, it only will ever increase, never will go down. But we can't, we can't know the price of the dollar, so that's why, the price is pegged to the coin. Clifton said, which is a good answer. So, I mean, as the price goes down, the cost of the T-share will go down. I remember in the early days, when a T-share only cost 60 cents. Imagine that.
Yeah,
you know, and then it went to over $50,000, I think it was, at one point to get a T-share. 50, no, it was like 20. It was half of that. It was half of the 50, whatever it was. It was probably like $27,000 for one T-share. And currently, I don't know what the price is. You can go to Hex Daily Stats or something like that.com, I think, and see how the price of the T-share has fluctuated as the price goes down. But getting them at this price is That's what this people just don't understand the value of the T-share. That's what the core property of Hex is accumulating as many T-shares as you can for as low a price as you can. So right now, it's crazy not to be trying to get more of them. If you have a stake that ends, you'd be foolish to sell it now. Restake it, stake it out further, keep that value in those T-shares right now, or plan it out for a couple of years. If you think you can kind of guess the end of that cycle, maybe have your stake end there. Look at the calendar of when the stakes are coming out and try and pick somewhere that there aren't a bunch coming out, and pick that spot. Maybe there won't be as much of a price reduction with people selling once those come out. So there's a bunch of strategies. You just look them up, and there's all kind of staking strategies everywhere. So
yeah, I know we've talked a lot about that, trying to time when you think like the better part of the bull cycle will be with the stakes. Yeah, I saw that.
Devs, please fix this.
Yeah, come on, devs. We're trying to make money here and in quick order, so get to it. But
no, there's no such thing as a dumb question.
Yeah, come on now, Fox. Let's go. But yeah, we appreciate all you guys being here. If you're still here, hit the like. We very much appreciate it. Sub to the channel, Create a Crypto. Again, we do this every single Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I've been appreciating a lot of the comments we've been getting on just some of the other clip videos that come up. Is I think people just appreciate our kind of measured response to stuff. That's the feedback that I've been seeing a lot. So it's definitely nice to hear that. There's a lot of psychos around.
I like answering people. It's good. They come here for questions and everything like that. So, it's good to help people. That's kind of why we're here.
Yeah. And keeping a level head. And I think that's a really big thing in crypto. There's a lot of people out there right now. Like I was just watching a channel the other day of somebody who I doesn't appear to be very level-headed to me lately or anything, but claiming that they were. And there's a lot of up and down emotions in this space by people, and I'm thinking like, well, it seems like you yourself are one of those people, and that's what you're just going to see out there. There's a lot of like identity crisis type people, and there's just constant drama and stuff like this in this space. That's just the way it's going to be. I mean, like the insane price fluctuations, I think, are going to lead to that. People are losing their ass every single day in one form or another, or maybe making life-changing wealth. You never know. So, I hope that this show anyway is a good place for people to come and just kind of commiserate and be calm about everything. So, yeah. Anything else, Ewok? You got any other final words on you get a lawsuit, or anything else tonight?
No, I think a couple weeks we'll see how that plays out, and it'll probably kind of gloss over. People will forget about it, and we'll be back to normal. Just like everything else, it's just a little bit of FUD. You got to get through it and move on.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, we will be back.
Smash the like, subscribe,
smash that like,
tick the bell.
But yeah, tick that bell, hit the all button, and we'll be back next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it'll be another good one because we'll have the FOMC to react to, where we think anyway it's going to be another 25-point rate hike. So we'll see if that's what they go through with. Will we have new PulseChain, pHEX lows? At that point, we'll be approaching that day 33 of when HEX actually bottomed when it launched. So strap in right now, and maybe this next week could be one of the biggest difference makers in terms of buying opportunity that we will see. So we'll see how it goes. But once again, appreciate all you guys for checking us out this week. We will see you next week for Crypto Ewok. This has been Broke Boy Crypto right here on the Creed of Crypto podcast.